Joining us now is a man who had a 30 for 30 documentary about him called Unguarded, a man who played for the Denver Nuggets, the Boston Celtics, Boston College, Fresno State, and Gurfee, which is in Fall River, Massachusetts. A legendary human that I think we will all learn from and be excited about our newfound friendship. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Herren. Yeah! Chris!
What's up, fellas?
How's it going, man?
All good.
I just checked out chrisherren.com this morning, and we watched Unguarded yesterday again. I want to let you know what a ride your life has been, man. What an incredible ride. Do you ever sit back when, like, in the morning, you look at the mirror and just go, holy hell, I can't believe I'm here?
Every day. Every day. When you wake up and you take a chance at dying for 8 years straight, it's a miracle I'm here. I was close to death multiple times, but every day for about 8 years, I took a chance at dying. So to be where I'm at today, coming up on 12 years sober, is just phenomenal.
Congratulations on that, Chris. Not easy. I stopped drinking because I used to party rather hard, still smoke a lot of marijuana, but I stopped drinking completely, and I understand how hard that is. Let's get into your story a little bit. So yeah. Fall River, Massachusetts, where you're from, that is like an hour outside of Boston. Is that accurate?
Yep. 25 from Providence, hour from Boston. Seems
like a real working class community, tight community, hard-nosed, blue-collar community. Is that accurate?
Very much so.
Okay, in basketball, high school basketball was the thing in the town. And I think watching that documentary, I actually asked, we have a kid from Massachusetts here, a massive fan of yours. I believe he had a Herren jersey back in the day. But I asked him, I was like, is high school basketball a big deal in Massachusetts? I had no idea. And then when we watched the Unguarded documentary, you guys had, it seemed like 5,000 to 6,000 people in the gym. Was that because you were there, or is that because what Massachusetts high school basketball is?
No, I think it was more Fall River, Massachusetts, right? I think, we had anywhere between 35 to 5,000 people on Friday nights. Strong tradition of winning. My brother, I followed his footsteps, and he was 49-1 in 2 years, so won 2 state championships. High school basketball back then locally was a lot different. Now it's dominated by prep schools. The best of the best played for their local high school. Now the best players go away to prep schools. So there was a lot of talent in the gym. And with that, mixed with the strong tradition, we had, sellout crowds.
Now, your loyalty to Fall River will be something we'll talk about here in a little bit once we get down the line of your story here. But you end up going to Boston College, and as a local guy going to Boston College, I bet that was massive amongst everybody in Fall River. I bet that was huge for the Boston College people. For you, that had to be almost dream come true, or was NBA always dream?
No, NBA was never a dream. The dream was to play Durfee basketball. And then I realized I was a little better than most, and that, I could continue. And, it really wasn't until like late in my junior year of high school where I kind of stepped on the scene and they started recognizing me as one of the top basketball players in the country. But to go to BC, close to home, I'm a Fall River kid, but Massachusetts through and through, and just didn't last long.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you tell the story in the Unguarded documentary that whenever you're there, you're offered cocaine by two ladies, which is a college move, by the way. You were describing basically what college is in a nutshell, and you made sure to put out the point, like at first you said no to it, and then they were kind of persistent. You went back to it. And do you think that one decision to try cocaine that one night. Now, granted, it could have happened again another night. You could never do that. But do you think that was the night where it really all changed for Chris Herren, do you think?
I think I'm wired to seek relief.
Oh.
And cocaine allowed me to talk about the things I needed relief from. I fell in love with the honesty, the long nights, the conversations, the depth. And, you know, as crazy as that sounds, you know, and to the average person, they'd be like, what is that? You know, but to people who've been down that road, they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, those late night conversations are the realest conversations that ever happen. Now, granted, they might be in a different state of mind, but they are happening, which don't normally happen. In high school, did you try any drugs or alcohol, or were you pretty straight shooter in high school?
No, there was nothing straight about me. I've been crooked since the get-go, brother. I drank a lot, smoked a lot, hallucinogenics, mushrooms, acid, you name it, I did it. Painkillers occasionally, but cocaine is what really wrapped me up at 18. And, you know, I'm just one of those guys that, you know, once I get going, it's tough there's no more breaks. And I learned that pretty quickly. You know, I'd be in a dorm room partying with a bunch of people, and the next thing you know, there's only 2 left, and then I'm the only one. So my Boston college career was ended quickly. I failed multiple drug tests, and cocaine back then, I mean, it was off the heels of Lenny Bias, right? So it was kind of like for athletes, it was kind of like this taboo, especially basketball. And BC didn't know how to deal with it. And they kind of took the hardline approach, and they suspended me for a year. And then I said, you know what, I'm out of here, I'm transferring. Okay, so when you transferred to Fresno State, you didn't have to sit out a year. The suspension was by Boston College, not the NCAA, because I was kind of confused in that whole thing. Yeah, it was by Boston College. But I did sit out a year because of the transfer. Got it. So I went out to Fresno thinking, okay, like I'm 3,000 miles away from home. I can put this behind me. You know, and like any person suffering from this, you know, we know where the water level is. And I'm at a barber shop, and it's getting ready to close, and the beers are coming out, and the next thing you know, I'm noticing guys going to the bathroom, and I jump back into it. And I ran with cocaine for about 3 years at Fresno, pretty hard. Okay, so even though you ran with cocaine at Fresno pretty hard and you partied, and some of your friends, by the way, from Fall River moved out to Fresno, which a lot of people said was potentially a problem because you were bringing people back in your life that were problematic maybe at that time of life, not forever. But you still end up getting drafted, I think pick 32 or 33, 33 to the Denver Nuggets. And that had to be something where you're like, was there ever a thought it was like, hey, man, I've been up late nights doing with these people, still putting 30 on like UMass, and I'm still partying. Was there ever a thought where you were like, you know what, I should probably just go ahead and get straight whenever I go clean here in the NBA, and who knows what I could do? Or was it your mindset like, hey, look what I already got drafted at 33, and for the last 3 years I've been on cocaine. I could do whatever I would. You feel like invincible almost? Neither. I believe I was neither. I believe I was wired to seek relief, and with being untreated, I was not gonna. That was the mindset. There wasn't a mindset of like, oh, I can drop 30 on you high. I was guilt-ridden walking into arenas after partying all night. You know, I was full of shame and guilt and remorse. And then there was not this mentality that, you know, I'm just gonna get sober and I'm going to let this thing run. Because I knew deep down in my soul that it was bigger than that. And if I was ever gonna live that lifestyle where I could be 100% focused on the game, I was going to have to step away from the game for a while. Did anybody know, like at Denver or at Fresno State, aside from your friends, because Heather, your wife, you've been together since 7th grade, which is a miracle, by the way, especially as a D1 athlete who moved across the country, made the NBA. That is an absolute congratulations on that. But she seems We've been married twice. I mean, basically, you know what I mean? There was pre-sobriety, post-sobriety. So 2 different lives, two different marriages, basically. But she said she didn't even know. She said that, was that a lot for your teammates and stuff too? Because I feel like my teammates knew
if I showed up and I was ridiculously hungover, or if they had been out with me or anything like that. Did your teammates ever know? Because that seems like an interesting locker room conversation.
No, I mean, football's different. You know, football's a totally different animal. And I've learned that over the last 10 years, you know, speaking at Alabama and Florida State in that culture. You know, football's full-time. Basketball is part-time. You know, I mean, it's like you walk in, you practice for an hour and 40 minutes, and you go home. So I think the integrity of a football locker room is much stronger. The connection is much stronger than it is in the sport like basketball. You know, and do I think some of my teammates had an idea? Probably. You know, after only being with them for 6 months, I don't think any of them really wanted to go down that road. And again, you know, on an NBA roster, I'm the 12th player, right? So I'm kind of insignificant in a lot of ways. So, you know, I just kind of flew under the radar and did my thing. Now, in the NBA, the Denver Nuggets was the best year of my life. I had Dice and George McLeod and Roy Rogers and Popeye Jones and Chauncey Billups, Bryant Stith, like men of integrity, who really looked out for me. But I, you know, I remember being in Miami going to the Rolex, you know, before the Rolex was the Rolex, right? It was a beat up Rolex. And, you know, that night took on a life of its own. And when I got back to the hotel in the Grove, one of my teammates was waiting in the lobby for me, and he just shook his head and he's like, you know, we got to talk. And that was George McLeod. So a couple of them knew, but none really broached the topic with me. Nobody really wanted to kind of dive in and intervene.
When you got traded from Denver back to Boston, was that the worst thing that could have ever happened to Chris Herren's life?
It just sped up the process.
So you think you still would have been doing everything that you were doing? It was just at a different level because you were back home.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. It just fast-tracked it, right? I mean, you know, when I got back there and I was already dabbling with OxyContin, you know, and OxyContin at that time in 1999, 2000, all you kind of heard about it was hillbilly heroin, right? Yeah. It was like in West Virginia and Kentucky. Whoa. It made its way up to Maine, and I found it in Massachusetts, and people weren't taking it. It wasn't common. But, you know, when I jumped up to about 1,600 milligrams a day, you know, that's tough to manage.
What is a standard dose of OxyContin? I don't think I've ever. By the way, OxyContin, and it might have been you a part of that whole thing. The OxyContin branding it turned into very similar to the way heroin's talked about. Like, hey, do not mess with OxyContin. If you can stay away from OxyContin, stay away from OxyContin. Whenever you got hooked on OxyContin, did you? I think in the documentary you said that you and your friends had no idea that it was going to get you the way it did, right?
Well, I mean, the reality is we were buying it off terminally ill people, right? I mean, that's who it was being prescribed to back in 1999. I wasn't buying it from them. The people who were selling it were getting it from people with stage 4 cancer, HIV, people who were in a lot of pain. That's who they were getting it from. So there was a part of me that knew, you know, I mean, I'm taking something that's prescribed to people who are dying in a sense. But it wasn't like, I mean, it was an immediate marriage. It was an immediate, like, handcuff. You know, to go from 40 milligrams to 1,600 milligrams a day, I would assume, you know, I had rotator cuff surgery when I was playing for the Celtics, pretty painful surgery. And the guy prescribed me, I think it was 20 milligram OxyContin twice a day, you know. So I'm taking 1,600 milligrams to walk around and play hoop.
Jeez. And then there's a legendary story, which, by the way, not legendary in a good way, but you in your full Boston Celtics jumpsuit outside the arena while fans are walking in, waiting for your OxyContin dealer to. Was there ever I mean, I feel like in 2020, if that was to happen, it would be obviously impossible because cameras everywhere. But did you ever have
everywhere? Yeah, the way it was set up, the TD Garden, you know, it was a secured lot in front of it. There was one guy sitting in it who kind of passed us through. I told him, I said to him, like, I have a buddy, he needs a spot. So I managed that, you know, but the reality is, you know, I'm standing outside like 10 minutes before the game, and I had no choice because there's no way physically I could have played in that game unless I had it in my system.
So what do you and now at this point, about to be 12 years sober, which is absolutely amazing, especially with the demons that you've been battling, you battled for so long back then. There was never a thought of like, if I was sober, I'd be better than that guy. I'd be better than that guy. I'd be better than that guy. You never thought that because in your head, you're like, I need this actually to be good.
I was too sick to think that way. You know, like the way I thought was, how am I going to manage tomorrow? How am I going to cash this check? How am I going to move this money? How am I going to ship OxyContins all over the country? So when I'm on an eight-day road trip, it's going to be in every hotel lobby waiting for me.
Jeez. And then whenever you leave the Celtics because you get injured, you end up going overseas. You go to China, I believe. You go to Italy. And that was where you found actual heroin. It was like, that is just the fact that you were able to play at this such high level while being on all these incredibly harsh drugs. For me, and this is going to sound bad, but you might be one of the greatest athletes to ever exist, like literally ever exist, because 1,600 milligrams of OxyContin just to go play hoops. I mean, that is, and then you go to Italy and you get into actual heroin, you said, and then you I think China as well. I mean, Chris, that is absolutely, as somebody who partied rather hard, like I would show up at practice hungover, and I would almost do better those days because I didn't want anybody to come after me for being an alcoholic or hungover, right? You'd like, you'd focus.
Turn it up.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to dial it. Like, listen, if I mess up today, everybody's going to call me an alcoholic. Everybody's going to call me a problem. But if I do good, they can't say anything. It's like for you, what you were able to accomplish is just next level. Now that you're 12 years sober and you're speaking, ChrisHerren.com for everything, Herren Talks, Herren Project, Herren Wellness. I mean, what you are giving back to the community is next level. But when you speak and you have those moments, do you ever think like, I wonder what I could have done if I wasn't on all those drugs?
Honestly, I used to, it really, that dominated my life when I was getting high. Once I got sober, it was a sense of relief. And all of that past just went away, right? And it just, the hustle had to be turned into something different. Like, recovery is no different. You know, like for me to stay sober for 12 years, I got to get my shots up. You know, I got to keep my cardio going. I got to stay in shape. It's just applied in a different mindset. So the sense of relief and the accomplishment, like to be coming up on 12 years sober in August, is way greater for me than any basketball game I ever played in.
What was rock bottom? What led you to being sober finally after all those years? It had to be something. I mean,
right. So, you know, it's, a guy looked me in the eye and told me I should play dead for my kids. You know, he was like, you know, you should play dead. You should pretend that you OD'd, let your wife say you died in a car crash, however you want to play it. But it's time to let the people who love you live. And I was 32 years old. I was in treatment when he told me this. And, you know, I contemplated doing that. I contemplated, you know, I didn't know if I had any fight or come back in me. And there were nights that I laid in bed and I thought about ending my life. I thought about letting my kids go. You know, my son Chris was 9. My daughter Samantha was 7. My wife was 8 months pregnant when I overdosed the last time. And I was always in the way, man. You know, I was always a hindrance to their happiness. And whether it was birthday parties or Christmas, I was present, but I was always taken. I was always taking from it.
Jeez. Chris,
so
you're an amazing dude. You know that. Like, there's not a lot of people that bounce back to look the way you look and act the way you act right now from that.
Thank you,
legit.
brother.
I mean, that's all the shows now. Documentaries, shows. Yep. There's a lot. I mean, there's very small amount of humans that make it to the NBA. Okay, very, very small amount of humans that make the NBA. But I think that number is even smaller for the number of people that get off of what you were on there for so long. Yeah. I mean, that is absolute insanity. And the fact now that you're giving back, and your son Chris is what, a sophomore in college now, playing hoops.
Yeah, he's going to San Diego. He was at BC. He's the third Herren to fizzle out at BC.
For different reasons. For
different reasons. Much different terms. He's going to the West Coast. I don't blame him. You know, that's where it's at. You know, and he's ready to start fresh out there. My daughter's starting her freshman year at Providence College. So, yeah, life is good, man. Life, you know, recovery has given me and my family everything we ever needed and wanted, and I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed to share it, to talk about it, and to encourage, right? Because people tell heroin addicts that life is over. You know, my life was just beginning.
How's your shot? You still got a good shot or no?
I'm a phenomenal tennis player right now.
Really?
Phenomenal.
That's your thing? You go hang out and beat the hell out of the old folks at the tennis courts? Is that
no. See, I at my wellness center now. I got a bunch of young adults.
Hey, Virginia, Massachusetts, by the way, 2 of them. That is unbelievable what you're giving back.
Yeah. So I got some real good, you know, some athletes that come through here. Some professional athletes, college athletes, old athletes. So tennis is, I'm a gorilla. I'm a gorilla on the tennis.
Do you still talk to anybody from Fall River? Anybody you grew up with? Or
of course, I drive through Fall River to get to my wellness center every day. Fall River's, you know, I am Fall River, right? I'm through and through. It's in my blood. I love the city. I believe the culture and the mentality. And that what I grew up in, that's what kind of came out of it. It also came out of me through basketball, but then also in recovery.
Oh, the grit, right? You need that grit from there to get through it, because there's no easy day. Diggs, what do you got?
Chris, you talk about athletes coming through your wellness center. Have you found that like a lot of athletes with problems with addiction, stuff like that, seek you out, or do you hear like their families coming to you for help, and then you reach out to them? Does any of that happen?
Yeah, totally. You know, I keep my wellness centers small. I believe in culture. You know, I think it matters when you're healing. So we have 36 people here that live here. But people reach out to me from all over, you know, whether it's athletes, actors, politicians, judges, doctors. You know, we get all types. And that's kind of the beauty about addiction today, that, you know, it crosses all boundaries, all area codes. You know, so we get a lot of former athletes. We get a lot of current athletes that come through here as well. But you know, it's sad because you said you smoke a lot of weed, and
a lot.
Too
much.
Yeah.
A lot. Too much, probably.
You perked up on that.
Yeah. I mean, I apologize. It's good. It does good for me at the time.
I hear you. I'm not. Listen.
Are you trying to get me to this wellness thing? I'm not going to. Right now, I'm not going to.
Hey,
Chris.
listen. I got a bed for you.
Hey, listen. You don't want me on that tennis court, Chris. You hear me? Yeah. We'll be back in the second hour. Radio. We can't say talk to you. All right. So radio just shut off right there for the heart out there. Hey, if I come in there, no, I am bringing my own tennis racket.
Listen, I'm waiting. I'll be at the net.
Well, Chris, I think, man, this story, like, I don't even know how to sum up the conversation we just had there, because when we were told we were going to talk to you, I was so pumped about it. And then we watched a documentary, and you sound like you're right out of a movie. Like, not the accent, but I'm just talking about your life is straight. Now the accent is also ridiculous, but you are straight out of a movie, man. Like, you're not supposed to be where you're at right now, and the fact you're giving back to so many people and changing the world, it's a beautiful thing, Chris. It's an absolutely beautiful thing.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
What do you got there? Denali? Escalade? What are we sitting in?
Yeah. I'm sitting in it outside my wellness center because there was too much noise.
Get a little hectic in there, huh? A little trash talk in there.
Hey, listen, I'll be at the net waiting for you.
Yeah. If you're scared, you just let me know. Ladies and gentlemen, NBA player, author, speaker, Fall River legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Herren. Thank you. Thank you, man.
Love you, brother.
Hey, I'm gonna get your book. I need to get your book.
Anytime, I'll send it to you.
No, I'll pay for it. I like supporting business. Let me buy it, but I will need you to sign it, and I'll need you to say, "I got Samprist by McAfee." If you could, please.
No doubt.
All right, I appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Herren. What a stud, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
beast.
That was a real convert.
Oh yeah.
We just had a real conversation.
You saying
How the fuck are you on 1,600 milligrams of Oxycontin and then you're in the NBA balling? I don't know.
Scoring 20 points.
Cover the newspaper.
Bro, that is next level. Like when I said you might be the greatest athlete of all time, imagine what's going on in there while he's doing. I mean, that is just next level, dude.
that is an insane amount.
I'm so thankful.
But you also saying like this many people make it to the NBA, this many people make it through what he did, like that's very true.
Very true. You watch Intervention or you watch any of these documentaries or Live PD even, it's become, like, well, that show's been canceled. But if you watch Live PD, it's all these people that are battling this shit. You either end up on the street or you end up dead or the very, 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 very small amount end up like him. And it's just like, damn, unbelievable what he's accomplished.
Yeah, you hate to say it, but like you look at somebody like Delonte West, like that's a similar situation where they just end up in these terrible situations, and one made it out, and one.
And those videos of Delonte West that come out are just so sad. But man, him outside TD Garden when his Boston Celtics jumper, right? Just
Crazy.
Like, yeah, I got a guy coming 10 minutes away.
Yeah, he needs a spot.
I'm a big fan of that Chris Herren guy. I'm not gonna stop smoking weed, but I'll go smoke and play him in tennis. What a guy.
He looked a lot like Christian Bale.
Hey, how good did he look there?
Yeah.
Really good.
Oh, yeah.
Good haircut.
Movie star looks.
Movie star. He got that accent too from Massachusetts. What is that? Fall River. Where's that? Is that Southie?
Yeah, no, that's way Southie's like in the
City.
in the city limits. Fall River's way down there. It's close to Rhode Island.
It's south though.
Yeah.
Because he has that accent. It sounds like what I would think a Southie person has.
That is the Boston accent. Like if you're from South Boston, that's
the accent right there. Got
Charlestown.
And that was run by Whitey Bulger. Southie.
Southie was not run by Whitey Bulger, but Whitey did move there. People would argue that Boston was run by